Hello, everybody. It's David Arkin. I'm here with Tara Jones, our digital specialist extraordinaire. How you doing today, Tara?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to talk about branded content today. That's like a whole world to talk about. So we're going to focus on something a little bit more kind of specific with branded content. That's how to find the right story to tell when you're doing a branded content campaign, and also who to actually kind of work with to actually define what that story should be. Those are all, it can be kind of challenging things when you're sort of kind of working on branded content. This is like one of many topics that we'll kind of talk about as we do these videos. There's a lot more branded content to talk about, but as we're working with clients, we really see this as a challenge for some, and the ones that like do this right really kind of succeed. So any thoughts as we kind of get going, Tara, on just sort of what you have sort of kind of seen in this area with branded content?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. One thing that we see a lot is a lot of newsrooms trying to get incorporated into the branded content process, and that can be helpful, but sometimes it can also be helpful to extract that from the newsroom, especially because this is such an important part of, so many newspapers are doing this these days, and losing a lot of advertisers because they're not really able to kind of find an interesting way to tell these stories. So there's definitely a lot of room for growth and opportunity when it comes to branded content.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, we want to kind of keep this out of the newsroom as much and often as possible. Just, at the end of the day, like great branded content is journalism, but there's a level of, working with the brand, and it's marketing content. At the end of the day, it's great content, but it also is marketing content. And, kind of not having any sort of gray lines, I think is a really kind of critical thing, and just finding the right people to help kind of tell those stories. I think it's just a cleaner division. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think that's where it can come into play to have people help you with this. And people that are in your staff, or, people that again have a little bit of a reporting background, but aren't necessarily in the newsroom, because then they can kind of really help you seek out that story and write a really good story for the client, so they're happy and continue to, do branded content with you.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, when somebody's kind of working on a branded content campaign, they're pitching the idea to, kind of an advertiser. And one of the things that we have sort of seen is really effective is to have with that ad rep, or at least kind of create enough knowledge for the ad rep on what makes a great story. I just have sort of found so many times when we're sort of talking, we're doing a little bit of like a needs assessment with an advertiser, that often they won't even know what they even have to work with. And they'll share something. I'll be like, oh my God, that is like such a great story. Like, and they're like, it is? I'm like, yes, like if we did this and that to it, it could really make it, kind of come alive. So I think, and it really kind of depends too, I think, on who you're working with. In some cases, when you're working with like maybe like a hospital that has like a communications team, that's a little bit different than when you're working with like a, local small business who doesn't have that experience, doesn't have that knowledge base, and you really need to kind of be able to kind of pull that out. I think you can do both. You can work with both somebody who does have a communications team and not just be the distributor of that content, but work with them to improve what they want to do. But I really kind of think this idea of a content strategist in some way working with a small business is really important. I think it teaches like the ad rep how to tell a great story. And the content strategist, who should have a background in like content marketing. There is a line we just sort of talked about with kind of, the newsroom. They understand sort of how to like pull out the great story and still, without making it feel like an ad, are able to kind of get the point across. So I think that's sort of that is the perfect sort of way to be able to like do it. Have somebody that kind of like pairs with the ad rep, hears what the advertiser is saying, and then says, oh, hey, we could do this, this, and that. When I've been able to do that with a advertiser, it just like, it takes it from like I don't really like, know what this is, like a brainstorm, and then like the whole meeting just changed. I don't know, what's your experience been with that? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've actually worked with a few former branded content clients, and I was working specifically with one nonprofit. They were trying to do sponsored content to solicit some donations, and they just kind of wanted me to like talk to their head of construction, their head of whatever, like 3 different interviews, and as I was doing those interviews, one of their longest volunteers was talking about a specific project that really boosted the overall community. It was like redoing an entire block of their neighborhood, and it happened to be the very first neighborhood that you see when you drive into town. And so I was like, that's such a great story, because like, what is going to help solicit donations more so than people seeing the physical impact that they're making in the community that they live in? So that was just a great example where they pitched an idea to me, and I was like, sure, let's do these interviews, and we actually found something really great.
That's awesome. It's a great story. Yeah. So I think one of the things to think about for people would be, if you can have somebody who serves as a content strategist, like that is great. That may not always be like, oh, that person sits over there. Like you're my content strategist. I think like, but finding somebody who in your organization or in a contracting way has an understanding of what makes a good story. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what this kind of comes down to, is finding like the hook. Like this is why like former journalists are really good for this, if they understand the marketing part of this, but they also understand how to find the hook. And this is why like a lot of freelancers can work really well in this sort of space. But finding somebody who can, and sometimes this could be a freelance writer. I think what's really important though is that they understand that, they are trying to help like close a sale here, and they're trying to help provide motivation and ideas and excitement on what this can actually be. So as long as the person has like some content background, understands the marketing of it, and understands like has a little bit of the salesy part in them, I think like those things together is kind of what you're looking for. And those people exist, they exist definitely in a contracting world. They exist in a some of those people do have that background that sit in a newspaper or a TV station today. So trying to figure out the right way to kind of pair that. And I think where I've seen this go wrong is where that person doesn't take part, and they're just kind of taking whatever the advertiser says, hey, this is what I want to do. And in some cases that might be great, in some cases it's not great. And just sort of taking that and not actually like, the value that you offer here is the story you can tell and the result you can deliver, and being able to bring that value to the table to help them craft that, I think is a really kind of important thing. So one of the awesome things that we're doing right now is that we are actually offering this as a service. So it's a full branded content boot camp where we sort of help build strategy. We build kind of pricing packages, a pitch deck, and actually go out with media companies to pitch the service to clients, and then create the content. And so, if you don't have a content strategist in your building, you can talk to us. But we hope the more important point of this video is to help them think about, who you're working with and how you're who you're kind of bringing with you, and why that's so important today.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things is that, again, like you can kind of learn how to ask those questions through osmosis. So I think the hope is that like, if we get out there with our clients, they'll kind of be able to take some notes on the questions that we're asking. Like, we're getting to know their brand. We're asking them about some of their values. We're asking them about their products and their services, not just what they want in the ad. So I think the hope, is that they'll be able to really take that and run with it. So if they are, if they aren't staffed with a digital content strategist or a writer that can do that, they will at least be, a little bit more equipped to handle that themselves.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, love to talk to anybody about this idea. Hopefully some people who saw this got some value out of this. And Tara, thanks so much for chatting today about this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.